How in the world do you know when you found a new favourite novel? I get asked a lot about what my favourite book is, and I always say Mary Shelley's Frankenstein. Frankenstein is my favourite novel. I'm comfortable with saying that. And because so much of what we do at Books and Bow, both the website and the YouTube channel, is about literature in translation, I have a favourite novel in translation, which is Convenience Store Woman by Sayaka Murata. Although honestly, if I had another, it would be her other novel, Earthlings. She is my favourite Japanese author. But I also get asked if I have a top 5 or a top 10, and I don't. New books come and new books go. I read classics, I discover new favourite authors, like only about 2 years ago did I start reading Agatha Christie, and I would happily put her in my favourite authors list. She's amazing. And I have 1 or 2 favourite books of hers that I've read. But they're not in my top 10, because I don't have one. I read so many great authors all the time that having a top 5 or 10 list is impossible. I have a favourite novel, and I have a favourite novel in translation. That's it. Until now. Now, I think I've finally found my 3rd favourite novel. I now have a top 3. And I don't like speaking too soon. Maybe this book won't stand the test of time. Maybe I'll never reread it. But for now at least, If We Were Villains by M.L. Rio has become my 3rd favourite novel. But why? Why this book? I read a lot, I review a lot. How did I come to realise that this has entered my top 3 pieces of fiction? I don't really know, so I'm going to talk to myself here, and you can watch. And I'm going to try and figure it out. To start with, in case you haven't read it, If We Were Villains is a murder mystery / dark academia novel set in modern day USA. Our pseudo-gothic cast of characters is a group of acting students who are in their final year at a specialist arts college in Illinois. They have all spent their years with Shakespeare specifically. They are all Shakespeare fanatics, and every semester they put on a Shakespeare play together. And they're pretty close to graduating. There are 7 of them, and you spend a lot of time with all of them. But there is one protagonist in particular, and that is Oliver Marks. When we begin, we have a framing device. Oliver is in his early 30s, and he's just come out of prison after having served time for 2nd-degree murder of one of the other classmates. He didn't do it, and so immediately we have a murder mystery situation where we wonder, well, who did it? And also, who died? Because after the prologue is done, and we're thrown back 10 years to Oliver and the rest of them aged around 21, we know that one of them dies. We don't know which one, and we're sure that Oliver didn't do it, so we then assume it was one of the others. And we also wonder when the murder will happen. But all of that kind of goes out of your head pretty quickly as you are thrust into their lives. We spend a lot of time in this novel with Shakespeare. M.L. Rio is an ex-actor. She understands Shakespeare. And I am a huge lover of Shakespeare as well. I also trained in theatre. I have also acted in Shakespeare plays. I grew up studying and teaching Shakespeare when I was a high school teacher. Shakespeare and I are very intimate. And the same goes for this author. And her characters. There is so much quoting of Shakespeare in here as well. And as a bonus for me, the plays that are specifically put on throughout the course of this novel are all of my favourite Shakespeare plays. We begin with Macbeth, and then we go into my favourite, Julius Caesar. I know these 2 plays inside out, and watching these actors play their roles, practice their lines, discuss the themes, discuss the academic side and the theatrical side, was just music to my ears. And there really is quite a lot of Shakespearean academia in here, so it would serve you really well as a reader to know these plays. You don't have to, of course. The final play that they put on, and this isn't a spoiler, is King Lear. I like King Lear. I don't know it half as well as I know the other 2, but I know it. And knowing it helped. But it's not a requirement. I guess having an appreciation for Shakespeare or having seen some of his plays would help with some of the language maybe, but ultimately this is about these characters and their love for Shakespeare. This is a novel about passion, about our hobbies and interests and the things that come to define us. That crossover between a thing you do as a hobby and your personality itself. So as these acting students are putting on these plays together, are being given specific roles and rehearsing their lines, fractures start to appear. There are cracks between them all. One of them in particular, a boy, who is physically the largest of them all, his name is Richard, becomes very, very violent. He's cast as Julius Caesar, and the characters in the novel start to mimic the cast of the play itself. As the blurb says, the themes and events of Shakespeare's plays start to bleed into the lives of these people. There's nothing supernatural going on here. This is not mythology. This is not fantasy. This is very, very grounded and real. But it kind of explores the idea that we can get lost in what we do. We can get lost in fiction. We can get lost in our passions. And all of that happens here, because these people live and breathe Shakespeare and his characters, and his themes. The characters themselves are incredibly well realised, all 7 of them. You come to know their backstories, where they're from, what their parents do, their economic backgrounds, their relationships to each other. You've got 7 people, and you'll get to know how each one feels about the other 6. There's a lot of intimacy here. And obviously we're following Oliver all the way through, but we really get to know all of them, especially the one that he shares a room with, James. And their relationship is a very unique one. It's not one that you often see explored with such delicacy in literature. That's all I can really tell you without spoiling anything. I don't want to spoil who dies, and the blurb does give away the fact that there is a twist at the end that will leave you breathless. Or that might have been one of the review quotes. Yeah, it is one of the review quotes. Says that there's a final twist that you won't soon forget. And yeah, that's true. Just like an Agatha Christie novel. But what's interesting about the murder mystery aspect of this book is that it really is put to one side for the majority of the book. The murder happens. They don't know if it was a murder or not. It seems like it might have been a suicide. The police investigation goes on in the background, and the other 6 people just continue on. They keep studying. They keep rehearsing. They keep putting on plays. They're getting ready to graduate. While one of them is dead, and you have to wonder if it was a suicide or if it was a murder, and if it was a murder, who did it? And we know that Oliver is going to go away for it eventually. The Shakespearean-ness of it is also something that seeps into the text itself. It seeps into the characters. As we've said, they start behaving like the characters in things like Macbeth and Julius Caesar. But there's also the fact that all of the chapters are called scenes. There are 5 acts, like in every Shakespeare play, and at the beginning of each act is a prologue and then a series of scenes. Each prologue is set in the modern day after Oliver has come out of prison, and we see what he's up to now that he's out. And then he tells the story about how we got there. So the framing device follows us. We see it 5 times at the beginning of each act. It's also unavoidable to compare this to Donatart's The Secret History, which is the most famous piece of dark academia, arguably the modern novel that started the whole genre, and this really is like The Secret History. You've got a group of intelligent and passionate university students in a rural area going to a fancy arts college, and one of them dies. That's exactly The Secret History. But they are different. The Secret History isn't a murder mystery. This is. And The Secret History is just about a bunch of horrible rich people. Whereas this is about a passion for theatre. This is about the stage. This is about a batch of broken thespians. And for that reason, I hugely prefer this novel. I would argue that perhaps The Secret History is more beautifully written. The dialogue and the prose in that book is captivating. Every page is stunning. When I read The Secret History, it kind of reminded me of reading Oscar Wilde, where every word is very, very specifically chosen, and it feels like poetry. This, less so. But the theatrical nature of it, the fact that you get to know these characters so intimately, and you really bond with them, and they're all sad and broken in different ways, and they're all at each other's throats, but they're all still relatively likeable, unlike in The Secret History, makes this a more human piece of fiction. The Secret History is about a group of unlikable rich people. This is not quite so cynical. In fact, not nearly as cynical. These are kind of beautiful people, in a weird way. And I think the reason that this has become my new favourite novel, or at least entered into my top 3, is the Shakespearean aspect, is the fact that I studied theatre at university as well, so I really relate to what they're going through their rehearsals and the way they bond with each other, and how acting students seem to get closer to each other than students of other subjects because of the nature of what they do. And also the fact that I have a bit of a love-hate relationship with dark academia. I've read quite a few dark academia novels, and some I like and some I really don't. And this one showed me what the genre can do. Showed me what the peak of dark academia looks like. And as I said at the very beginning of this video, Agatha Christie has become a favourite author of mine, and I'm also a huge fan of the Honkaku genre of Japanese murder mysteries. And this is a very, very unique murder mystery, because of what I said earlier, the fact that the murder mystery is kind of pushed to one side, so we focus on the drama, we focus on the narrative, we focus on the relationships, and we'll get to the murder in due time. I find that approach fascinating. The fact that the murder nips at the back of your mind, constantly just poking at you, going, hey, 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 remember, there was a murder, something is going to happen, someone has to pay, a murderer must be revealed. We can't just think that Oliver did it. That's not enough. The book wouldn't begin that way, would it? But then, the text itself forces you to stop thinking about all that stuff and go, hey, 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 they're putting a play on, watch the play. Enjoy the drama. Enjoy the parties and the sex and the drinking. Enjoy the way that they fight with each other and hate each other and love each other. Focus on that. And then again, there's the voice at the back of your mind that says, but the murder. The investigation, who did it? It's absolutely captivating. I am so impressed with this novel. I think because I studied theatre, because I love Shakespeare, because I love Agatha Christie and other murder mystery authors, and because of my love-hate relationship with dark academia, this felt like a perfect novel for me. The edition I have is a brand new hardback edition to celebrate the 5th anniversary of the book. And I'm so glad I picked this one up in particular, because I kind of took a gamble. I had a feeling that when I finally read this book, it would become a favourite, and it did. So now I don't have to buy the paperback. I've got this, and it's signed. I don't really care about that, but it's a nice bonus. If We Were Villains is like nothing I've ever read. But it's also very similar to a lot of things I've read. It takes so many things that I love, boils them all together, and creates this magical thing. It's almost indescribable, even though I've spent more than 10 minutes talking about everything I loved. For now, at least, I have a top 3 favourite novels, and this is in that top 3. And that's a cool feeling, because I find that a challenge to talk about my favourite books. I pretty much settle on 2, and now I can do 3. That's nice. But that's not really what this video is about. This video is about just how much I love this novel. If We Were Villains by M.L. Rio is a new favourite, and I'm thrilled about that. Subscribe for books.